What if everything you've been taught about the nature of reality is fundamentally incomplete? What if the solid world you perceive is merely a projection of something far more fluid, far more responsive to consciousness than you've been led to believe? For thousands of years across every ancient civilization, from Egypt to Tibet, from Greece to Peru, there existed a secret knowledge of a specific frequency that directly interfaces with the fabric of reality itself. This frequency wasn't measured in hertz or any modern scientific unit, but was understood as a specific vibrational state of consciousness that, when accessed, allows the human mind to directly influence the quantum field. The ancient Egyptians called it the breath of Amun-Ra. The Tibetans named it the clear light vibration. The Greek mystery schools referred to it as the Orphic resonance. But regardless of its name, its power remained consistent. The ability to restructure reality at its most fundamental level. This knowledge was deliberately hidden, reserved for initiates who had proven their wisdom and restraint, because its power, when misused, could create dangerous distortions in both individual and collective reality. Today, this ancient frequency has been rediscovered through the convergence of quantum physics, neuroscience, and the recovery of ancient texts that were thought to be lost forever. What I'm about to share with you comes with a serious warning. This is not a technique to be used casually or with impure intention. The ancient frequency rewires neural pathways, dissolves energetic blockages, and fundamentally alters how your consciousness interfaces with reality. Those unprepared for such a shift may experience disorientation as their familiar perception of the world begins to dissolve. Proceed only if you're ready to accept responsibility for the reality you create. The ancient frequency operates through what quantum physicists now call non-local consciousness, the understanding that awareness is not confined to the brain, but extends throughout and beyond physical space. When you access this frequency, you're not merely changing your thoughts, you're altering the fundamental field from which physical reality emerges. The ancient texts describe this process as writing on the cosmic tablet. Modern science might call it collapsing quantum probability waves through conscious observation. Different language, same phenomenon. The frequency exists at the intersection of three specific brainwave states: high alpha 10 to 12 Hz, low theta 4 to 5 Hz, and gamma bursts 40 Hz. This unusual combination creates what neuroscientists call whole brain coherence, a state where typically separated neural networks begin to synchronize. But the ancients understood that this was merely the beginning, the physiological doorway to something far more profound. When this neural coherence is achieved, a specific resonance is created between your consciousness and what quantum physicists call the zero-point field, the underlying energetic matrix from which all matter emerges. This resonance creates a feedback loop, where thought directly influences quantum probability, and quantum probability directly influences thought. The boundary between observer and observed, between creator and creation, begins to dissolve. This is not metaphor or philosophy, but a direct description of how consciousness interfaces with reality at its most fundamental level. The ancient frequency technique consists of three phases, each building upon the last, to create a complete rewiring of your reality creation mechanism. Phase 1. Neural recalibration. The foundation of the entire process begins with a specific breathing pattern that rapidly shifts your brainwave state. Inhale for a count of 6, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 8, hold for a count of 2. This 6-4-8-2 pattern, when practiced with complete presence, creates an immediate shift in your autonomic nervous system, from sympathetic dominance, the stress response, to parasympathetic activation, the state of receptivity and regeneration. Continue this breathing pattern for exactly 7 minutes, no more, no less. The ancient texts were precise about this timing, as it corresponds to a complete cycle of energetic recalibration in the human biofield. As you breathe, place your awareness at the center point between your eyebrows, what esoteric traditions call the third eye. But understand this is not merely a physical location, but an energetic vortex, where consciousness can be directed with extraordinary precision. After 7 minutes of this practice, you'll notice a distinct shift, a subtle vibration that begins at this center point and gradually expands throughout your entire body. This vibration is the first indication that you're accessing the ancient frequency, the beginning of the neural recalibration that makes everything else possible. Phase 2. Quantum resonance. Once neural recalibration is complete, the second phase activates the direct connection between your consciousness and the quantum field. This requires a specific sound, a primordial vibration that the ancient texts describe as the sound that preceded creation. Modern sound engineers have reconstructed this specific frequency as a tone of 432 Hz combined with a secondary tone of 8 Hz, creating what acoustics experts call a binaural beat pattern. When this sound is heard while maintaining the breathing pattern, a phenomenon occurs in the brain that neurologists call frequency-following response, where neural oscillations begin to entrain to the external stimulus. But what science is only beginning to understand is that this entrainment extends beyond the brain to the quantum field itself. As you listen to this tone, visualize a golden light emanating from the center of your chest, expanding outward in concentric spheres until it encompasses your entire reality. This visualization is not merely symbolic, but a precise instruction for directing consciousness in a way that directly interfaces with quantum probability. The ancient texts describe this as commanding the light of creation. Modern quantum physics might call it conscious direction of probability collapse. Maintain this combined state of breath, sound and visualization for exactly 12 minutes. Again, the timing is precise, corresponding to a complete cycle of what the ancients called cosmic recalibration. Phase 3. Reality inscription. The final phase is where the actual rewiring of reality occurs. With neural pathways recalibrated and quantum resonance established, your consciousness now exists in a state of direct communication with the underlying matrix of creation. In this state, thought does not merely influence reality, it becomes reality. The ancient texts describe this phase as writing on water, a poetic way of expressing how consciousness imprints itself on the fluid nature of quantum possibility. To complete this phase, you must formulate a precise intention, not as a wish or hope, but as a direct command to the fabric of reality itself. This intention must be stated in a very specific syntax that the ancients understood creates maximum resonance with the quantum field. Begin with the phrase, "It is done," followed by your intention stated in present tense as an accomplished fact. For example, "It is done. I exist in perfect health. It is done. I move through life in abundance. It is done. I experience profound connection." This syntax bypasses the conditional nature of most affirmations and directly imprints the quantum field with the completed reality. Speak this intention aloud 3 times while maintaining the breath pattern, the sound frequency, and the golden light visualization. Then, and this is crucial, completely release all attachment to how or when this reality will manifest. The ancient texts are explicit on this point. Attachment creates resistance. Resistance creates distortion. Distortion creates unintended consequences. The complete release of attachment allows the quantum field to reorganize along the path of least resistance, bringing your intention into physical reality through the most efficient means. This 3-phase process, neural recalibration, quantum resonance, reality inscription, creates a complete circuit between consciousness and creation, between thought and manifestation, between intention and reality. But here is where the warning becomes most relevant. This technique fundamentally alters how your consciousness interfaces with reality, not temporarily, but permanently. Once you've accessed the ancient frequency, your sensitivity to the quantum field increases, your thoughts become more directly creative, your consciousness becomes more powerful. This is not a responsibility to be taken lightly. The ancient texts contain numerous accounts of initiates who misused this knowledge, creating realities they were unprepared to inhabit, manifesting circumstances that overwhelmed their wisdom. This is why the technique was guarded, reserved for those who had undergone years of preparation, developing the discernment and wisdom necessary to wield such power responsibly. If you choose to proceed, understand that you are accepting complete responsibility for the reality you create. There is no one else to blame, no external circumstances to point to when you become conscious of your role as creator. This is both the greatest freedom and the greatest responsibility a human being can experience. For those who proceed with wisdom, the ancient frequency becomes a tool of extraordinary transformation. Realities that once seemed impossible manifest with surprising ease. Limitations that once appeared fixed dissolve like mist in the morning sun. But this power must be directed with impeccable intention, with consideration for the whole, not merely for personal desire. The ancient texts describe this as aligning with cosmic purpose, allowing your individual will to harmonize with the greater pattern of universal evolution. When used in this way, the ancient frequency becomes not merely a manifestation technique, but a pathway to what the mystics called conscious evolution, the deliberate acceleration of human development. This is its highest purpose, not the accumulation of personal power, but the expansion of consciousness itself. Begin with small applications, simple intentions, concrete manifestations that allow you to verify the process without overwhelming your existing worldview. As your confidence grows, as your wisdom deepens, the scope of your creation can expand, but always maintain reverence for this ancient knowledge, respect for its power, and gratitude for the lineage of wisdom keepers who preserved it through the ages. The ancient frequency is not merely a discovery, but a remembering, a reconnection to knowledge that has always existed in the deepest layers of human consciousness. It reminds us that reality is not the fixed solid construct we've been conditioned to perceive, but a fluid responsive field constantly shaped by consciousness itself. This understanding once formed the foundation of human civilization before it was obscured by materialist philosophies that reduced consciousness to a mere byproduct of brain activity. Today, as quantum physics continues to confirm what the ancients always knew, that observation affects reality, that consciousness is fundamental, not incidental to creation, we stand at the threshold of a profound remembering. The ancient frequency is both the key to this remembering and its most powerful expression. Use it wisely, use it consciously, use it with reverence for the extraordinary power of human consciousness to shape the very fabric of reality. The choice is yours, the power is yours, the responsibility is yours. Proceed with caution, proceed with wisdom, proceed with love, for the reality you create is the reality you will inhabit.